Hello, welcome to Unitary Designation. Um, I was thinking about authenticity online because most of us who are sharing content online, intellectual content, like trying to make sense of the world by talking about it out loud with other people. We sort of came to the internet because the real world, for whatever reason, failed to provide a setting for which we could do that. In a way, we sort of kept it too real for commercial media or for the inauthenticity we would encounter in a corporate setting, where everything's supposed to be nice and like you're supposed to get along with everyone and you're not supposed to offend anyone and you can't really speak your mind. Sort of like this eggshells world, right? And so in the early days of the internet, we all went to chat rooms and we all like said and played with ideas there. And part of the my prime area for internet was like early 2011 to 2013 Reddit, like the Wild West of the internet. And like earlier platforms were also like that, but that was the time when internet sort of went mainstream and became today's social media. And you could really like inform your own thinking with other free thinkers, not ready-made intellectual instructions, not easy to digest, here's what to think, go out and spread this kind of doctrine, but like free thinking, free thoughts. And you weren't chastised or like banned for having counter views. You were often asked, why do you think that way? Or at least that was the ideal. And it's like, what are you supposed to do now? Like, if you want to say something true or real, you have to go into these like fringe areas where like one topic can be discussed, but it comes with the baggage of like 900 other topics. Like, if you want to talk about how we've elevated sensitivity over truth, for example, just an epistemological discussion, like what our core values are, they aren't truth anymore, they're more like nobody gets hurt. You can't really talk about that on a mainstream platform like Instagram, so you have to go to these like black pill, red pill, manosphere territories where that notion is coupled with yes, and women shouldn't vote or some shit like that. And it's like, I mean, that's the problem with like banning anything, even remotely away from like anything deviating from like the strictest center is like instantly ostracized. So like an example is YouTube, right? If you want to talk about, there are more things you can't talk about on YouTube than I could know about. Like, the only reason this video isn't taken down is because I don't know to name them, and that's not healthy. Especially when we went online, because there wasn't anyone telling us what to think and what to say and what to like adhere to. There wasn't the strictness of the church, there wasn't the politics of the corporate world, there wasn't the real world politics, there wasn't any of that stuff. There was just people sharing ideas, and that meant you didn't have to do that much. Ironically, it was only when everything became banned that you sort of had to be like, oh fuck, here we go. Now I gotta wear a suit and speak my mind and be like, listen to motivational podcasts and like, whatever happened to just letting people be, well, just letting them be, you know? And you might say, well, we're still just letting them be. They just can't say X, Y, or Z in these platforms. But that's not how speech works. That's not how anything works. The second you tell people they can't speak their minds on a topic, that's what they'll talk about. And that's not wrong, honestly. Like, human beings are hard to control. And in my opinion, they aren't hard enough to control. Because ultimately, there isn't any other meaning-granting being in the cosmos, at least not for humans, than other humans. And so controlling them should be something you could only do at monumental cost to yourself. And I don't know. It's dark and depressing. And often when you find someone who speaks their mind, they're either taken down or they're elevated and glorified to the point where they become like a parody of themselves. And they turn to cringe ad revenue. Like YouTube, the machine will churn everyone. And I pray to God that doesn't happen to me. I hope I don't get like discovered, cursed by the algorithm, and then like I look at the analytics statistics and it's just like, oh, they seem to respond to Fortnite and Minecraft. Or it's just so cringe, all of it. Was this what it was supposed to be? You know, you don't have to go full Aaron Schultz, the co-founder of Reddit, and say that, you know, Reddit is this the internet is this free speech platform, absolutist free speech. But is this what you want? I mean, now they're going for the 4chan types and the R. Donald types and the peppy meme lords, but sooner or later they'll come for you. And who are they? And who are like whoever owns the platform, right? If you've never been censored on any social media platform, or you don't know anyone who's been censored on any social media platform, or you haven't been afraid to speak your mind on anything on any social media platforms, then like hats off to you. Because like your intellectual life is boring. Your intellectual life, if you've never been afraid to speak on any issue on any platform, is the equivalent of like doing everything your grandparents approve of and parents approve of at all times. Like you never have a beer. Like you never make out with a girl that is you're not married to or something. Like it's ridiculous. And people hear this kind of talk and think it's like dog whistling for racism or something. And it's just not. That's just a non-starter. It's just not. Like, if living and feeling like there's something you can't say is bad. It feels very like alienating and like emptying, and it's so inauthentic. It's so inauthentic. If nobody's saying what they think and nobody's meaning what they say, then how can you ever trust anyone? How can you live like that, knowing that nothing you hear is true? I don't. That's not a world I want to live in. I want to know that when people speak their mind, they mean that thing. It's not a layer for like 6 other things that they're trying to get across. Like, I play World of Warcraft, right? Classic. It's about to head into Wrath of the Lich King. I raid with this mainly British dad guild, right? And it's just a bunch of guys with kids and wives just playing 2 or 3 hours a week, you know? It's nothing to like write home about. And even there, it's like you make any kind of off-color joke or just like some kind of word combination, and you know there's murmurs and there's hushed silence and there's like quiet ignoring, and it's just like their wives are looking over their shoulders, and it's just so I don't know, it's not exactly emasculated, although it is that, but it's just so Orwellian. Like, I don't know. It's hard to stand up and say that people should manifest their lesser selves, but like, if you don't create some kind of ventilation, if guys can't speak to guys about how crazy their partners are occasionally, then like, when are they? Oh, I don't get this. Like, women can gather and talk shit about their spouses all day, but like, if we say anything about our women on any platform or in any context, we're like patriarchal oppressors. Or it's I don't know. I don't know what you want. There's no world where you're not going to get criticized for your shortcomings. And if you don't allow those shortcomings to be aired publicly, they'll just be like aired like in different formats. You can't control people's opinion of you other than just being a cool person. And I don't know what people want from us except total cooperation and obedience. And it's like, A, that's never gonna happen. And B, is like, what kind of world do you think you're making if obedience and like silence is your currency? Do you really want to live in that world? And if you do, why would you think that other people would consent to living in a world governed by like silence and adherence to dogma? And like, I thought we're supposed to move on from that. I thought that was what the whole risky sort of gamble with religion was. Like, we were supposed to move past organized religion into this kind of like free thinking, modern, democratic, everyone can contribute platform. But like, it got hit with censorship so quickly. And if you think it's bad now, like, just look at what the CCP are doing in their country, in China, with their citizens, with social credit scores and stuff. And I don't know if that's ever going to come to the West. I pray not. It's whatever. But like, how can you look at a system like that and think, oh yeah, mass censorship, good idea? Like, what kind of person would want that? What kind of person would look at other people living their best lives, talking amongst themselves, and think, no, right? Think this is a risk to me? It's like, well, if it's a risk to you, sir or ma'am, then, or whatever, then I'm sorry to say, then you're gonna fail pretty quickly, because people are gonna talk, and cramping down on it isn't gonna lead anywhere good. And the problem with putting the responsibility of speaking about certain things on fringe actors is that the people who see or have these kind of opinions, or these kind of like newcomers, right? Young people raised by their parents to the best of their parents' abilities, sees all the incongruencies with the world, read some philosophy, and then find these people that will actually address these issues that are politely ignored by everyone, like crime statistics. And they will find these fringe actors and be radicalized, or at least they will be fed a world view that is informed by other incentives than the ones they were traditionally raised with. And all because they found an outlet to talk about something they observed about the world. So you're actually, like, it's not even counterintuitive. It's just plain and simple. By silencing the vocal majority and pushing them to fringe actors, you're making the world less safe for the people you want to protect. And it's on you. Like, you're gonna be responsible. And yeah, it's just so backwards. And I wanted to say the R word, but I can't anymore. But it's mentally stunted. It's stunted intellectual development. It's inhibited intellectual development. Dare I say, it's retarded in development to think that just by making everyone say nice things around you, that everything is now nice. That's just not the case. And that's my issue. I don't know, like, when people with that level of stunted growth had this level of sway. Like, how did that happen, right? It used to be that the people in the playground that couldn't handle not being the king of the hierarchy, they were just ostracized. They were just laughed at and ignored. Now everyone tiptoes around these asocial actors, and I don't understand how that happened. I guess it's the power of big tech. I don't know. I don't know why bad faith actors suddenly became the de facto. Why everyone's on eggshells around these fringe minorities. Why I'm feeling this tension just talking about this, and why sharing a video like this is like risky. I don't understand how, because I'm 100% certain that this isn't a fringe or like sort of like radical view. This is just common sense. Like, we should be able to speak our opinions and then get feedback, negative feedback or positive feedback or indifferent feedback. Like, why is it so tense and loaded? You know? I don't get that. Now it comes out in like subtle ways, right? Maybe like in TV shows, in certain shows, 6 episodes deep, you know, you might get a third act or second act plot point that is kind of edgy. But like, see Rick and Morty's Vindicators 2 web series for the character of 1,000 ants, a million ants, deals with the pronoun issue. But it's so hidden and so like layered, and it's not in public that much. Like, you wouldn't know about it if I didn't say it like this. So it's like everyone's still thinking the same thing. It's just like more hushed now. And as someone who's done their research on authenticity, is like, who's that for? Like, you're not serving anyone by like making the truth harder to say, or at least people having their truth, which is a phrase I hate, but their opinion harder to say. Like, you're not gonna get anything out of that. If anything, you're just gonna make it worse. Like, all this shit is gonna backfire, and it's gonna backfire so spectacularly that it's starting to look like that's what you want, and it's just not good. It's not good. It's not benevolent. I don't know. I don't have a like, are the public space platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, are these public domains, or are they private companies? And if they're private companies, you know, they can censor, they can do whatever they want, right? At least conceptually, or legally, I should say. But they're more like utilities, right? They're more like the water or the electricity. They're like public spaces now. And you can't have, like, you couldn't have a town hall with 3 out of 100 people controlling what the rest of the 97 could say. That doesn't work, at least not if you want to call yourself a democracy. You can't have people rule if the people don't rule, right? And it's like, if you don't want people to rule, okay, say that. And if your position has merit, it'll stand on its own feet. And if it doesn't have merit, it deserves to be shut down, right? It's like what Carl Sagan always used to say. If it can be destroyed by the truth, then it deserves to be destroyed by the truth. And what that means is that, for me, the kindest thing you could do to an intellectual position or an argument is to destroy it with the truth. And if it can't, then it deserves the light of day. Like, any idea that you have, or that has you, rather, any idea that has you deserves to face truth. That's how much we care about bad things. We love them to death. So when you have a bad idea in your head, you deserve to fact check it. Or not even you, that idea deserves to be destroyed, or at least confronted with the truth. And if you're pushing some kind of social agenda, I mean, look at how far we've come since like 2012, 2008. 2008 looks like 20 years ago now. And, you know, it's not. It's 10 or 14, but it's going so quickly. I don't know where we'd be in 10 more years, 20 more years. Would this be instantly bannable by some algorithm in 5 years, in 10 years? Will I have to delete this video looking back? Like, it's not good. It's not good, especially for me. My whole shtick is that the world is too... In many ways, people are making the world pretty shitty, pretty inauthentic, and I would like it if things were more real. If there was less passive-aggressive anger under the surface all the time. I would like it if people were more happy and more content with their own lives, so they didn't have to control everyone with anxiety all the time. And this need to just destroy everything that is authentic or real or expressive, it's not healthy. It's poison. It is a poison. It is a literal poison. Like, authenticity is the cells and the biology and like billions and billions of individual DNA, trillions of individual DNA atoms expressing their adaptively honed truth, their biological like expression. And it's just trying to inhibit that in selective ways for arbitrary or seemingly arbitrary reasons. It's like walking up to a grand symphony orchestra and just casually, like, that's being directed by something. I don't know what's guiding evolution, if there is something, if there's something like McKenna talked about, the universal attractor at the end of time, or something like a universal novelty seeking consciousness, or, you know, a god, or I don't know if there's anything directing evolution. But even if it's just blind chance, like, why would you stop what has already been constructed? It's like walking up to a grand orchestra that's being directed by something and just, you know, stopping every individual violinist from playing certain notes, and it's like it's just gonna make the rest of the orchestra sound worse. Assuming that a song being played is better than no songs, I don't see why you would do that unless you were malicious. And it's like, if you are, that's great, but don't take it out on everyone else. Like, making the world suck more because your life isn't up to snuff. I can see it in my darkest moments, but I could never live it. Right? Like, I can understand that motivation. Like, I'm in pain and everyone else should be too. But I could never see myself waking up the day afterwards feeling shitty, but less, you know, malicious, and then just being like, oh, well, that's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to make everyone else's life miserable. I'm going to make every workplace toxic. I'm going to make every cross-race or cross-gender or cross-cultural interaction hostile, or at least conceptually. I don't... Aristotle talked about the good life, but maybe he and Plato should have talked about the dangers of, like, aggressively adhering to something, to not living the good life. Like, they talked about the benefits of the good life, assuming that it would just be evident that everyone would want to flourish or to, like, experience eudaimonia or human flourishing. But maybe they should have just hammered the point in that it's actually bad to suffer, or it's bad to do bad things. Like, it's maybe just letting that be seemingly self-evident that people should want to flourish. Maybe they should have just hammered home why that would be good. I wonder how long we're gonna experiment with this sort of like postmodern nihilistic, like anything goes, everything is up for my interpretation, my narrative. I'm out for revenge. I was slighted by someone who isn't you, so I'm going to take it out on you. I wonder how long we're going to work under that operating system. Like 200 years from now, if we're still around, do you see us still being like, yeah, short-term mentions for bad things that happen to me? That's the way to go. That's the ideal operating system. I don't. And you know what? I get it, right? I get that things suck. I get it. I get that things are hard and difficult, and that, you know, we take out our baggage on other people, and that's partly why working in retail sucks, because you're just gonna, any day, you're just gonna get someone whose aunt locked him in a closet or something, and they're just going to take that out on you 30 years later, and you have no idea why, and you're just going to have to live with that. And I get that that sucks, and I get that our system is broken, and that we're not supposed to be 7.5 billion strangers living together but on a planet. But I mean, Jesus, to wish for the destruction, or the, like, yeah, to wish things more bad because things were bad once, it's so childlike. It's so amazingly, it's so astonishingly unsophisticated that it's just boggles the mind that someone could look at that conceptually and think, yeah, making things worse, sure, that, yep, like, in your heart of hearts, postmodern neo-Marxists, don't you have some kind of clarity moment where you step back and like, wait, what am I actually doing? Like, I claim to be fighting for the oppressed, but I'm just making everyone at work feel awkward. Like, I don't know. I don't know, honestly, because I've been in these sort of intellectual spaces. I've been to university. I have a master's in philosophy. I've talked to radical leftists, and they were not driven by resentment, misguided maybe, but they were really convinced that radical left-wing politics were the best way to bring about maximum human happiness. And I don't know what's happening on Twitter right now could be said to be about maximizing human happiness. It seems to be about creating division and then glorifying yourself because you're not one of those bad guys that you've made out exist. And it's like, there seems to be a real douchebag shortage, because I've seen people that are, you know, maybe not well spoken, but sort of just normal people saying their opinions imperfectly, being like demonized. And it's like, if we've run out of bad guys, that's a good thing. The mass media doesn't have to like manufacture new ones from like misunderstandings or like bar conversations. And I don't buy this whole, yes, but negativity garners clicks, and you know, in a post-internet age, you need clicks to survive because print media isn't selling. It's like, well, first of all, the market rewards what it thinks it wants to see, right? So like, print journalism isn't well done in a market because people don't buy newspapers when they have iPads. Okay, well then let's move past print, right? But you can't move past reporting responsibly. Like, if your shitty excuse for a news website, and I'm not talking about The Guardian or like the New York Times, I'm just talking about if you're dailycappuccinonews.com, if your website doesn't cut it in the digital space without turning to like fringe political action, then like maybe you should do some other enterprise. Rebrand your site, make a new project. Like, most creative projects fail. Most artists fail their first band or their first solo project, and the will to keep going is what sets them apart. Like, if your particular enterprise doesn't cut it in the market, that's a sign that the premise was wrong. You know, it's been destroyed by the truth. Now, say thank you and move on. I think we're seeing somewhat of a backlash to that now in like the later half of 2022, because some of the companies that was really pushing this kind of like this movement for globalist social policy seems to have stepped back from that a bit. Like Disney, they seem to have put the brakes on that, canceling this is Warner Brothers canceling the Batwoman movie, but also Disney setting out a different money-oriented directive. Like, the market will reward or punish excessive social catering. But whether or not corporations kowtow to this trend or not, I don't care. If Disney wants to ruin their IPs with short-sighted social sort of pushing certain social narratives, that's their right. Godspeed. And it's not a win that that companies are forced to kowtow to consumer dollars. That's not a win for anyone. The people who want to create chaos and division are still out there. They just lost certain corporate. I don't. In a sense, I don't care about what corporations are currently in vogue. I'm more concerned about the intellectual trends that brought about the things that put them in jeopardy. And even if the quote-unquote right wins the quote-unquote culture war in the coming 2 years with the next election, I don't care. Because it's not like the it's not like the divisive activists that drove the political polarization in the last 10 years go away. They're just gonna get smarter and more developed and find new ways to censor or control or spin. The age of spin. They're gonna spin stories in more and more potent ways. Like, I'm not concerned about who wins intermittent elections. It's about what is driving this kind of divisive trend. Like, cui bono, right? Who benefits? And why is it only targeting the West, right? Australia and America and Europe. Like, why isn't this kind of social divisionism targeting, I don't know, Africa, Middle East, China? Why is it only the West that is having a quote-unquote civil war or a culture war about their issues? Like, cui bono, right? Who benefits? And why is it driven by tech? And why is it driven by universities? And how long has this been happening? And it's just all these questions that have no answers, and people are too afraid to talk about it, and with good reason. And this might get taken down, and I don't know. I was always happy about YouTube when it first came. I was afraid to put up videos on it because it was so real, right? You put up your cover, or you juggling, or you sharing any kind of skill that you had or talent. Maybe you weren't good enough, or maybe you lived some backwards place that didn't have talent competitions that rewarded your guitar playing skills, but you could show people on YouTube. Like back when we were tribal, we used to have these kind of like, there was always someone in our tribe that was good at singing or good at shamanism or good at dancing, right? And all the 120 people in the tribe got to see that, and that was that. Maybe you could show other tribes in summer when you met them or something, but by and large, your talents were pretty restricted. And now we have YouTube, and you can show everyone. And it's great. We have video sharing platforms. You can film yourself. We have video, and we have video sharing platforms. You can film yourself doing whatever you do well, and then share it, and people can see it and be like, holy shit, this guy's amazing on ukulele or whatever, right? And that was what YouTube was, and it was brilliant. And then, because you couldn't do that at work, and you couldn't do that at like, maybe your family wasn't too fond of watching you play ukulele, and I don't know, like there's a lot of shortcomings to the atomized individual family unit. And there's a lot of things that size of social organization is not equipped to handle. It's not equipped to handle your love of the theater. You have to go to the theater for that. You can't perform for your family every night. They'd be bored out of their minds. And it's not a good thing to push the right too far, because they're just going to revert to the family unit hardcore, and keeping everything in the family can go pretty wrong. Even if it's not in a pathological way, it can still be pretty regressive. Like one of the great things we had was school systems. Everyone had to meet and share and talk and socialize each other. And, you know, with homeschooling, or at least with like people not going to university because it's too expensive, and I understand them. And, you know, they've become more ideological camps anyways, but there's nothing to gain from destroying the West, from creating less well-mannered, well-spoken, well-reflected, thought-out, capable, strong, authentic individuals. There's nothing to gain from destroying that. There's everything to profit and to gain from having that. We want more people who can speak their minds, who can think for themselves, who can act and be authentic, well-meaning, well-intentioned, strong, capable people. We want more of that, not less. And to see masculinity treated as toxic while also seeing women who want to be men, it's so bizarre, because it's like, what do you want? You want to be what you hate, but you want to hate what you be. It's just such a soup of confusion, and like, I don't know, nothing is to gain from this. Like, you should only play social games that can be played, like they can be iterated across time. Like, and if you want to deviate from that, if you want to play a game that can't be played across time, you should be very careful about playing it for a very brief moment of time and then apologize to the people you've hurt playing it. But to just do whatever you feel like in the moment is not happiness. It isn't. You might want to see if you have some kind of something that can be diagnosed, like ADHD, or maybe you're on the spectrum, or maybe your diet is shit and you have bacteria in your gut that don't know how to make the neurotransmitters you need, and so you feel like shit and happy, and maybe you have bipolar disorder, and it's not your fault, but you're not going to get better or treated by making everything worse. And I get that people are in real suffering. I get it, but that your suffering is not going to be less if everyone around you is less capable of helping. So I don't know, man. It's depressing and it's demoralizing. Especially because I kind of wanted or needed or hoped that the internet would be this kind of outlet for someone who doesn't necessarily fit in well with their culture, right? Norway, much like Britain, is very like, stay in your lane, don't think you're something special, don't express yourself, don't be different. People not only look at you weird if you're different, they will actively ostracize you if you're different. There's such a large need to adhere to social conventions that it's almost like the worst part of like traditional Japanese culture that is seeing such a rapid decline in birth rates, or South Korean culture that's seeing the same thing. It's very rigid in that sense. And I was kind of feeling more aligned with American cultural values, and feeling like I could be authentic in a way I couldn't in Norway, online, or in America. And to see that that is going away and that people are punishing authenticity rather than rewarding it is so disheartening, because there's not going to be anywhere left to turn once America goes into like some kind of social credit system, social credit score system, or some kind of like, what's the word? People who work to make workplaces worse. Yeah, HR. Like America turning into a great HR place. One giant HR department for America. It's not going to be good. And you can't migrate. There's nowhere else to migrate to. Like, you can't flee to Pluto. Or, yeah, I don't... Makes me sad. It really does. It really makes me feel a negative feeling authentically. I'm feeling genuine sadness. And I don't like feeling sadness, but I'm still feeling it. I'm choosing to feel it because I grieve. I grieve for the lives of kids and old people, middle-aged and 30s and 60s and everything. I grieve for everyone who can't live their truth. People who can't be conservative publicly, or people who can't prefer a family unit, or people who can't say that they like hunting because they'll be called, some kind of animal killer, or people who can't eat meat because they should be vegan, or people who can't drive a car because, they'll be called a climate killer, or, I don't know, people who can't own a small business because they should be working for a giant corporation, own nothing and be happy. The World Economic Forum put that out. And it's like, it's so... I don't even want to say dystopian because it makes you sound like a conspiracy nut. And it's just... Or Orwellian. It's just so... needlessly tragic. Like, people could be free to just express themselves. And should be. And we're not better off for cutting that off. I don't know. I don't have a happy ending on this. We should all work to be the best version of ourselves, regardless of the oppression or sort of the confining social atmosphere. We should all just try to be the best version of ourselves. And then, yeah, take the consequences of that, and take the sort of the applause of that. Like, no one is served by you hiding until you die. If I didn't make this YouTube video and played chess tonight, like, I might be slightly better at chess, but this video wouldn't exist. And like, I don't know. It's, your time on Earth is very finite. And if you're going to spend it kowtowing to people who actively want you to not be, that's a pretty... I get that. Because why would you take that fight, right? But it just ends up making the world shittier. McKenna used to say, Terence McKenna, American thinker, used to say that the way we fight back against inauthenticity is art. And I agree. I really agree. I think it's something like politically powerful. The way you fight back against people who want to silence everyone and wants to control everything is to create art, to create memes, to create songs, and to create just blog posts. And it might not seem obvious, but saying things out loud or writing them down and sharing them immediately makes you more comfortable saying that again publicly. It's sort of stored neurologically that, okay, I said that and I didn't perish. Okay, that level of neural wiring is more, it's safer now than it was before I said it out loud. Even if you have to start by writing something down in your own notepad and burning the paper, at least neurologically you'll have experienced that writing that didn't cause physical harm. So just create art, create YouTube channels, create videos that nobody watches, because for you, it's training. It's training to be better at being you, and that can only serve you. Even if you die tomorrow, metaphysically, you're bringing more you-ness or real you-ness into the world, and it serves being in a way that might serve you in a post-life or might not. But the point is, you're bringing about more yes and less no, and that's inherently good. So, and you might say, well, why is more yes good and why is more no good? And it's like, well, at a certain point, it's not anyone else's job to sell you on being. At a certain point, you either have to exist or you don't. Get busy living or get busy dying. And if you don't feel like getting busy living and you've taken adequate steps to ensure your health is okay and you're not suffering from neuroinflammation or from any kind of dietary issues or from alcoholism or from some kind of medical condition that isn't diagnosed, if you've done everything and you're certain you're living your best life and you still feel like giving up on being, then, there are exits on every floor. But if you want to help being, then know that being wants you. It really does. It really wants you. In a way that's hard to understand and hard to explain. Being really wants you to be your best. And it's haltered every time you're not everything you could be. So, yeah. I think that's enough. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.